Consumer purchase journeys today are increasingly complex and ever-changing. Decision-making often appears irrational, and peer influence is increasingly important as people seek to make sense of the myriad of options available to them today. Some people liken it to a pinball machine. At some point, there is a trigger that starts people off on a purchase journey, and they enter the decision-making process. They get bounced about from one touch point to another, sometimes moving backwards as well as forwards as they seek to make sense of all the information, and eventually do make that purchase, hopefully. This makes the choice of touch points increasingly important and challenging. So Newsworks wanted to help media agencies to navigate this complexity and place the role and importance of news brands in the context of all other touch points available to them. So our big idea was to use the insights from behavioural economics to underpin the research methodology. So first of all, we talked to Dr. Nick Southgate, an expert in decision making, to really understand the nuances of how people make decisions and what influences them along that path to purchase.
A confident choice is one you feel good about making, you like what you get, and you think you're not likely to experience regret. Anticipating regret is a big part of how we frame our decisions.
The study shed new light on how people make decisions and the role of media touchpoints along that process. People are always on a journey to buying something, gathering ideas about brands and products to possibly buy one day, even if that gathering is subconscious. Passively absorbing brand associations before a purchase journey begins in earnest is a powerful method of influencing purchase decisions. Consumer journeys are an emotional roller coaster with lots of ups and downs before the decision is made. And the journey itself is about reducing the worry and about making a confident decision, which is something that we learned from Dr. Nick Southgate.
The role of branding is to help us make those confident choices. And if you're looking to construct those confident choices where you exclude a lot of stuff, then clearly a news brand is kind of, because it's a sort of a place I feel comfortable with, it has my sort of values. You think, well, anything mentioned in this world is fine for me, and anything which doesn't get mentioned is probably for other people.
So brand preference increases confidence about the purchase decision that is made. So for car purchases, for instance, we found that 54% of people who had a brand in mind at the start were much less worried about the decision that they were going to make, whereas people who didn't have a brand in mind, only 39% of those were confident about the decision that they were going to make. At the end of the journey, 63% of people who had a brand in mind at the start of the journey were confident that they'd made the right decision about which brand to buy, versus 41% of people who didn't have a brand in mind at the start of the journey. News brands add an extra layer of certainty to that decision. 85% of people say that when they see a brand or product in their news brand, they are confident that it's right for them. The research established 10 roles for media channels in helping people to make those confident choices, and all channels play those roles to a greater or lesser extent. So what we were able to do was to help people understand the strengths of news brands in each of those roles in helping people to make those decisions. Our ambition was for the findings to be completely actionable for media planners and agencies today. So we produced a simple to use calculator that allowed people to look at the role of paid, owned and earned channels in influencing purchases for different categories, for different ages and for different stages of the purchase decision journey. Our online consumer journey planning tool has been completed over 3,430 times since November 2015, when the research was launched at an event attended by over 80 media and client representatives. And not only that, but the research has been viewed over 8,500 times on SlideShare. The response from media agencies shows that this research has hit the nail on the head, with many saying that this is exactly what they need for their day-to-day planning.
because there's such a reassurance to buying a car. It's not just getting people to consider it, but then research it, then test it and buy it. Beyond that, there's also reassurance they've made the right purchase. And the way the How People Buy research thought about the wider ecosystem, thought about different media channels, and then news brands' role within that, I thought that was really good. And it just made us think about how the news brands can work with customers to influence that decision. So that informed a lot richer conversation with media owners and enabled us to do some really interesting partnerships for Kia with the likes of the Telegraph and News UK this year. So it wasn't just planning in theory, it led to actual investment decisions. And that's one of the reasons why I love this piece of research.